Welcome to our CEC Monthly webinar. I'm Jackie Spainhauer. I serve as a field specialist in community development for MU Extension, and I will be your host today, and I'll be knowing Zoom person. So I'm going to ask that you be patient if you just joined. We're excited that you've made the decision to spend your afternoon with us, especially on a holiday, a Friday before a holiday. So we might have a small group today, but we'll have a mighty group, and we have a great conversation planned for you on youth entrepreneurship with a few of our conference panelists. So just as a reminder, our webinar series is a chance for you all to hear a little bit about from the speakers that are going to be presenting breakout sessions at the conference. And then after we wrap the conference in mid-September, we are going to highlight some of our most popular speakers from the conference. And then we're also going to, after that, continue the webinar series with some new speakers outside the conference that you may be interested, that have rural economic development and entrepreneurial focuses in the work that they do. So please feel free to continue to spread the word about this conference and the webinars. And if you haven't registered for the conference yet, I'm going to put a link in the chat so that you can take a look at what is coming up, what we're going to be doing. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat about the conference. I will be monitoring that so I can get some answers to you. But I want to start with some introductions from our speakers, from our panelists. So on the call today, and I have everyone spotlighted, so you should be able to see them all. We have Kara Siebe, and I hope I said that right, on the call with us today, and she is presenting at the CEC conference a breakout session focusing on entrepreneurship as more than a skill, but more as a mindset. And so Kara's worked in education going on 23 years and is currently the coordinator of Webster Grove School District's Thrive Entrepreneurship Program. And she has with her today Brian Keller, who serves as the school's social studies coordinator. I think science was in there too, right, Brian?
Yes.
Social studies and science.
Science and social, yep.
Perfect. So we also have on the call with us today Kim Barnes, and she is going to be leading a breakout session at the conference highlighting the YEP program, or the YEP program. We're really excited to learn about that, along with other youth-focused entrepreneur programs that kids are exposed to for businesses, and really those programs that get them excited about some of the choices that they get to make as youth. Kim has led the Callaway Bank as its president and CEO since October 2012, and she currently serves on the board of the Fulton Area Development Foundation, which is one of our local sponsors for the CEC conference this year. So I'd also like to introduce Mark Kausert and Aaron Banks. Mark is actually joining us for his second webinar with Aaron, and they are going to be speaking at the CEC conference in a breakout session on how to enhance your community through something that is so important to all of us in communities, which is retaining our youth talent. And they do that by some of the exciting transforming after-school programs that they have at the Missouri After School Network. And so of that organization, Mark is the Associate Director for Partnerships and has nearly 40 years of education, youth development, administration, ministry, and advancement. And he's joined with Aaron, who serves as Mason's Youth Workforce Initiatives Coordinator, and he brings 25 years of diverse work experience to his role. And I would like to also point out that that Mason, or the Missouri After School Network, is a platinum sponsor for our CEC conference this year, and we really appreciate Mark and Aaron for their contribution and dedication to our efforts. Finally, we have Dr. Sarah Wisdom with us, and she is presenting a breakout session at the conference that will focus on transformative power of embracing innovation and creativity. And not just for our youth, but she really wanted to open up to all aspects and all people at any stage of life. Sarah has over 20 years of experience in public education and became the first female superintendent of the new Bloomfield R3 school district in July of 2017. And before we get started, I would like to just quickly mention that in our youth entrepreneurship track at the conference, we have one more speaker or one more session. And the speaker couldn't join us today, but Eileen Frankel is the executive director of the Youth Entrepreneur Institute at the University School. And she will be joining us for a breakout session that is sponsored by our platinum sponsor, the Missouri After School Network. So let's jump in. I wanted to start off with a kickoff question, keeping in mind that those of you that have joined our webinar before know that we try to do this as a conversation. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I'll do my best to get those questions asked of the panelists, or if you have the ability to type in the chat answers to specific questions, panelists, please feel free to do that. But we may have a few minutes to jump in at the end with questions and answers. So the question that we're going to kick off with today is, each of you on the webinar, our panelists, coordinates a program that encourages youth entrepreneurs in your communities. Please share briefly about some of the effective methods you deploy to achieve outcomes of inspiring youth and entrepreneurs and getting involved in their communities. So whomever would like to start that conversation, please jump in and we will start from there.
Okay, Jackie, I can start.
Perfect.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Wisdom, glad you're here today. So my session is going to talk about 10 ways of bringing forth entrepreneur in everyone, but I also really hit on our youth as well, since that's we're public K-12 school district. But I also am going to hit a lot on our internship program. So 4 years ago, we went to a 4-day school week, and I was really charged with what we can do for our students on that 5th day. It's not just a day off for everybody. It's how can we enrich the things that we can't do during a 5-day? Maybe we just can't fit into the curriculum or the time frame. And so we wanted to put into place as many opportunities for kids' growth as possible. So we do a multitude of things. We do a school flex program where they can work part of the time. We also we bus in our lowest reading achievers, and they get individualized instruction on their goals and what the struggles that they really have. Maybe they can't do that in a group of 20, but we make it a small group. And so our teachers take rotation on that. And then what I'm really going to talk about the most in this presentation is our internship program. So I wrote an internship program. I talked to the Cowley County Chamber of Commerce. So New Bloomfield is right. If you drew a line in the middle between Fulton and Jefferson City on Highway 54, we are smack dab in the middle. So we're very close. We're a rural community, but we're kind of a bedroom community. A lot of people work in Jeff City, Columbia, Fulton, those kind of places. So we are the largest employer in our area, in New Bloomfield. So a lot of people go outside of that for work. And so really wanted to take this opportunity, since kids will have Mondays off, to grow some internship and get some workforce development going. So our internship program works heavily with our businesses and communities and the school district. And we work to try to get those students in internships that they can do some on-the-job training, also some workforce for work for the workforce, but they also can receive high school credit for that. And so we have a whole program with what they have to turn in and things like that. And so that's the basis of my presentation.
Thank you, Sarah.
You bet.
Let's go. Kim, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I can dovetail with Sarah. I am Kim Barnes. I represent the Callaway Bank, which is headquartered in Fulton, Missouri, which is about 7 miles from New Bloomfield, where Sarah is. So we are located right in the middle of the state in that triangle of Jefferson City, Columbia, and Fulton. And we've been supporting our community and our kids for 167 years. So we take it seriously. We want to be good partners. We want to be good community supporters. And so we're always listening and paying attention to what our communities need. And a few years ago, it became apparent that entrepreneurism needed to become a focus. And so we've been thinking and talking about that in all kinds of different ways. But it's also very clear that our school districts are doing a great job, but they need our partnership as well. How can we dovetail? How can we help? How can we work alongside them? So a couple of the things that my bank has introduced is, first of all, the Callaway Kids Bank Board, which is an exercise in civic involvement. We invite a couple of students at the high school level from each of the area high schools in, and we give them a purpose. We give them some philanthropic money, and we teach them how to be involved. We teach them governance practices, how to have a board meeting, how to be a good board member, how to make good decisions, how to invest in your community, how to form partnerships. And so they get a good taste of that in that process. That's so much fun. Another thing that we've done is in order to support the local FFA, FBLA, all those chapters of people who are teaching kids good things, we want to support that. And so we didn't really have a program, a way to fund their projects, but we saw a need for that. So we developed the Youth Entrepreneurship Program, which is a micro lending program to help support those FFA projects, those FBLA projects, all those kinds of things. So we try to work well with the school districts, with the local chamber, with the other economic development organizations, and just facilitate, just make what we can happen, make it happen.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
And let's go to Kara and Brian.
Right. Well, I'll start and I'll let Brian jump in when I get going a little bit. But I'm Kara Siebe, and I am with the Webster Groves School District. So Webster Groves is a suburb of St. Louis. We are kind of like, we have that small town feel, but are still very close to the city. So we are a singleton high school district, which makes it easy for us to kind of, I'd say easier for us to implement some of these different types of programs. So we started with youth entrepreneurship at the high school level. So about 6 years ago, I had the privilege of starting Thrive Entrepreneurship Incubator, where our high school seniors and juniors can come for 3 hours a day. It's kind of follows a tech school model. So they're here for the 3 hours in the morning, and they start real businesses that are, they have LLCs and business bank accounts. Regions Bank has been a huge supporter with us with that. And when we got this going, it became very apparent that we didn't want this just to be at the high school level. And so I was fortunate to meet Mark through LinkedIn, and he was able to connect with me, and we were able to brainstorm, how can we get what we're learning at the high school level down to the other grade levels? So our middle school and elementary kids. And the easiest way to do that for us was the after school space. Because there are a lot fewer barriers of entry to start an after school program versus going the curriculum route. So we did that. I mean, I think we had the conversation in the spring, and by fall we had an after school program, a 4th and 5th grade after school, 6th grade after school, and a 7th and 8th grade after school. And I will say community is a huge piece in making these programs successful. I was on a call and we were talking about in the spring, how are we going to implement this after school program? And a gentleman said, "What do you need, Kara?" And I said, "Money." And he said, "Okay, I got you." So we got the funding and off we went. And so because that has been successful, Brian Keller, who is with our social studies and science coordinator with the school district, met with me and was like, this shouldn't just be an after school. We need this for all of our kids in the district, not just those who can get after school or those who can fit it into their junior and senior year. How can we make sure every kid in our district, every student has the opportunity to learn the entrepreneurial mindset and these skills? So Brian, take it away.
So in the 3rd grade standards, I always like to align things to the standards. My teachers love me for it. But in the standards in 3rd grade, it's focused on Missouri, and there's economic standards throughout social studies, right? And so every year they're getting some economics. So we just found it just a beautiful connection between the business component, the economics component, and what Kara was doing at Thrive. And so we just wanted to open up this program for all of our kiddos. So we kind of did some rewriting, some reworking of that third grade business in Missouri unit and just introduced entrepreneurial mindset and doing some of those things with our kiddos. And they have taken it and they've gone hog wild with it. It has really become a really, really fun program. And the teachers, they've approached me already. They're like, we're super excited to teach this unit. What can we do now to get ready? And I'm like, well, let's continue to, let's build that field experience. So we take our students to a field trip in the businesses in the region. So they go visit the local businesses and talk, and they ask some really funny questions. It's beautiful. So it's a really good program. And the thing is, everybody has access to it. So everybody's going through third grade. So all of our students. And so we kind of use that as a precursor to what could be the potential in future grades. And so we're super excited.
Hey, I want to say this real quick. I know it's not my turn yet, but I want to say this. So our keynote that's finishing the conference is Desma Dietz, the executive director of Venture Lab based in Austin, Texas. And the curriculum that Webster Groves is using in third grade is the Venture Lab curriculum. So it's been a really cool opportunity for us to really partner and bring some of our partners into that space for school day as well as after school. So really excited about that.
Yeah, so we'll just share how we started and try to give you tools, kind of tell you these are the, roadblocks that we ran into and how we've kind of jumped over them or run through them or tripped on them, so that you don't have to if you want to kind of try to make this happen. Really, Brian and I have had to embrace our entrepreneurial mindset to make this work in our district. So we're just excited to share what we've learned and say, hey, let's walk alongside of you and help make this happen across the state.
I also want to say this, and I know you've introduced me, Jackie, but I want to say this about Kara too. And I'm really grateful Brian is a part of this team and also Dr. Adams at one of the associate superintendents. But also Kara has also been a part. We talk about community being a big part of it. That's why I love CEC. The word community's in it, right? It's about communities. It's about the community coming together, building partnerships. But also Kara, in recognition of this, has been a real connector within the St. Louis metro in bringing other communities together in all communities. She is working with Harris Stowe State University with their new entrepreneurship incubator, reaching out into St. Charles County, other high schools or other school districts in the metro that are doing this and encouraging them to look at it, working with the public libraries in the metro, in the suburbs, in West County, wherever. I mean, it's not limited to a geography, right? It's not limited. It's saying these are opportunities that can happen in our communities when we bring people in, when they see the vision of that. I see Doug Hunt here from Joplin, and I'm so glad Doug's here. I was in a meeting with him earlier, but that, and Joplin is one of those communities that has totally done this and embracing it through their chamber. And then also then coupling that with the school district and with the nonprofits, the CBOs that are doing after school, as well as the other school-based programs like JAG and the CAPS programs. I mean, this is what we talk about. We talk about coordinating a community approach to this work of elevating and lifting up kids. That's what we're talking about. And that's what I love about what Kara is doing in Webster Groves and what so many programs are doing across the state. School districts. I'm so glad I got to meet Sarah today. Been hearing about Sarah from Perry Gorel at Desi. And so anyway, so cool to me.
Perfect. So Mark, why don't you just take it away and let everybody know who you are and what you do?
Oh, well, you introduced me and my colleague Aaron is with me. And I always, if Steve Hennis is in a meeting with us, I always want to make sure before I go any further, Steve was our consultant when we first got the grant 5 years ago from the Mott Foundation to start this work in the after school space with the Missouri After School Network. And Steve was really such a great colleague and friend in helping us get started down this. He helped us with our white papers, and he's such a huge champion of entrepreneurship, but also for youth entrepreneurship. So I want to say that. And then as we continue to develop this, so the Missouri After School Network is one of 50 state after school networks funded by the Mott Foundation to do this work of supporting after school programs across the state. For us as a network, also we have a specific contract to support the programs in the state that are grant funded. 21st Century, which is a federal appropriation, as well as school age community grants, which is also federal, but those are childcare dollars. And then also brand new this year, we have state funding for after school called MOCAL, Missouri Comprehensive After School Learning Grants. These are and most of these grants are focused on under-resourced communities, so at least 40% free and reduced lunch populations to apply for them, right? So the goal here is to just make sure that there's opportunity for students. And then also Missouri is one of the, we have one of the highest engagements of middle school and high school students in the after-school space around the country. We've been told by the After School Alliance that with the exception of California, per capita, we engage more middle school and high school students in after-school programming than any other state. California has universal after school and obviously a more populous state. In Missouri, last count, about 130,000 K-12 kids are involved in after school and summer enrichment. So that's why it's so important for us to make sure that we're providing resources to those programs. And then also, Missouri has the most 21st Century Community Learning Center high school sites. Just for instance, we just had a new cohort that just was funded this year, and typically less than 50% of those who apply. It's highly, highly competitive. 50% of those that apply get funded. This year, we had the most we ever had apply. 51 programs applied, 22 were funded. Of those 22, there were 54 sites. 30 of those sites were middle school, junior high, or high school sites. So that's why, as a network, these kinds of things, especially with youth entrepreneurship, I was telling the group earlier that I was in a meeting yesterday because the Kauffman Foundation is just, they've gone through a kind of a redo with their vision. And so they have new leadership and all this. And so they haven't been doing any grant making until yesterday. They opened the window yesterday and they coupled that with a webinar talking about what their mission is and what those big buckets are. And they used a term that I really am going to continue to use. And this is, their projects are based on hitting those economic mobility gaps. And that to me is what we're doing in youth entrepreneurship. Regardless of where a student comes from, we want to make sure they have an opportunity to realize their future hopes and dreams. And it's through that, being able to be heard or to take an idea and develop it in the safety of an adult, with an adult mentor or with adults that believe in them, as well as peers that will cheer them along as well, right? You have a bank like Kim's who says, hey, guess what? We want to come alongside you. We want to give you some, we might be able to give you some capital, right? Teaching them about the processes. That's what this is about. And I get my buddy Aaron who comes alongside and helps me as well with this work. So I'm going to let him talk for a minute.
Well, I'm not sure what all to add other than to kind of talk about our session and what it will cover. The key point that we like to drive home is that entrepreneurship for youth is not only about learning how to create a business, right? Not everybody who learns about entrepreneurship is going to start a business or have a product that they're going to sell or something like that. But the cool thing about entrepreneurship is that it creates a mindset that is going to make you a better person. You're going to pick up skills that are going to help you with your future. And that's what this is about. And so we'll kind of talk about that in our session. We'll go over more in depth these initiatives that we have and how we get those into the after school space and what the connections are to the communities. We'll give you ideas if you're not already connected to your after school program, how you can do that. If your community doesn't have an after school program, we can also help you with that. That's the cool thing about our network is that's our focus. We want every community in the whole state to have an after school program because we know that it benefits kids and it's going to help them in their future. And there's tons of stats to support that, but that's what we're going to do for you. And that's what our session is going to be about, how to get involved, what you can do. And in the process, what's going to happen is your kids are going to come back home and they're going to stay in your community and make it better.
That leads me to a question specifically for Kara. When we were doing our little discussion before the webinar started, you had made a comment about the connections that businesses, will donate, but they want to do more. Can you elaborate on what the business community has done since the beginning of this program?
Right. So I've worn a lot of hats in this district. And one point in time in my life, I was the head cheerleading coach, and we used to have to hit up all the businesses for fundraising, and I felt like I was constantly calling them about money. Then as a DECA advisor, I was constantly calling them about money, and will you sponsor this? Will you sponsor that? In this role, I have had the privilege of being on the Chamber of Commerce board of directors, and what I quickly realized is our communities and the businesses have so much more to offer than just financial support. Financial support's huge, especially for public schools, but they have a lot of knowledge that our kids need. They have access to a lot of resources, the in-kind donations. I have found that when I bring in business mentors into my incubator, those mentors fall in love with our district, and they see what's actually happening in the classroom. And they go out and they talk to their other business partners and to the rest of the community. They become the biggest cheerleaders for our district. I don't have to stand up and say anything. They just talk about us. And then eventually they do want to give money. So it comes back to me and what I needed in the first place, right? But, with Brian, with our third graders really going out into the community, last year was our first time we took them out to do this. And several businesses said, can we please be on the list for next year? I love that my kid was we got to have those kids in our space to see our business. We want our kids, selfishly, to come back and to help grow the business in our community. Our chamber has realized that right here, my students are the future of the chamber, potentially, of all chambers. So that when they leave here, they might go off to school or they might start their own business right away. We want them to be connected to the community. And so that's where we've seen a lot of growth. And it's really fun to have someone else speak highly about your school and you just step back and let them go. And so that's the fun part we're in right now, because we've been in it for a couple of years. But that was a piece I didn't even think about when we started this program, that was going to be a major benefit to the program.
I think that the connection between the community and school is one of the most important keys here. And Kim, you had mentioned, and actually Sarah, I saw your post in the chat that you were on the Callaway County or the Callaway board, Kids Bank Board, which I love. And so kind of to both of you, I would love to know a little bit more about your experience with that, Sarah. And Kim, I would like to know how you use that program and how you see the impact in your community from that program. So either one, if you want to take that first, I'm just curious.
Sarah, you want to go first?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. So when I was in high school, so I am actually a graduate of the district that I am superintendent of as well. And so went K through 12 here and came back. But I was on the Callaway Kids Bank board back when I was in school. And I'm very happy and proud to say that my daughter is a current board member. So we have great ties. It is a fantastic program. The Callaway Bank really works hard in our youth in our county, and we're so thankful that they do. Miss Kim Barnes and Debbie LaRue are amazing people, and they truly want to grow our youth financially in the education world. And so I appreciate that. The board consists of, as Kim said, a couple of juniors and seniors, so that you always have somebody that's going out and somebody that's coming in that kind of knows how the bank board runs. And the Callaway Bank, they do a great job of sponsoring that, giving them a little bit of money, but they also support some work in the community, right? So generally they're going to do a project together. So not only does it bring all of our schools together, because we're all sending a couple of kids. And I believe Kim can correct me, but I think it's like once a month during the school year that they go to Fulton and they run it like a board. And so a lot of our kids haven't seen that process. They're not all coming to school board meetings, unfortunately, but when they do that, they learn the proper procedures and what that takes, and they have to work together for a common good for our community, which is amazing. They learn financial responsibilities. They learn, you know, there is a multitude of things that program grows and brings. So I'm a proud alumni of that, and my kiddo is a senior, so she will be a proud alumni of that as well. So I can't speak highly enough.
That's so
Wonderful.
cool. That is so cool, Sarah. Thank you. We are so proud. Listen, we're in it for the long haul, right? You invest in people at every stage of their lives. And I am so encouraged by what I'm hearing other people are doing in this arena, to know that, you know, you're not alone. Nobody's alone in this. We're all doing these things together. The realization comes hard that if we don't engage our young folks, we start losing them from an engagement perspective at an earlier and earlier age all the time. And if we don't get to them and give them some hope, some encouragement, some path, yes, this one path doesn't fit everybody. There's lots of paths you can take. And here's maybe your path, or here's a taste of something that can inspire or encourage that young person to stay in school and stay involved and to be hopeful about what they can accomplish in their life instead of giving up at an early age and just going through the motions, you know, barely doing what they have to do. Anything that can spark someone yields rewards down the road. And you're right. None of us as individuals may see it, you know, right away, but you never know the impact you're going to have on a kid. And there are wonderful examples. We all have them of somebody that we didn't expect to make it, but they've learned and they've succeeded. They've found their path. And that's the proudest moment ever that you can feel, because you know all of your effort was worthwhile for that one kid. That's what makes it happen, right? That's why we do these things. So the Kids Bank Board particularly, we see kids coming back to the community, and we see them getting involved as adults in things like the school board, like nonprofit boards, like their own business endeavors. And then they're not just inward focused, they're a little bit outward focused too. And so we know that we've had just a little bit to do with that, of getting them to see perspective. And that feels really good. Makes us happy.
Yeah, Kim, can I tag on to that really quick? You know, one of the neat things that we've been able to do now that we're doing this in the third grade is my seniors go down and they teach one of the Venture Lab lessons to the third
Cool.
graders.
Very cool.
And so it's not just, you know, they don't have to be entrepreneurs when they leave, right? And we always say monetary success is secondary in our incubator. But one of my favorite things was a student who went down to the third grade last year, and he came back just beaming. And he said, you know, Miss Siebe, I think I might want to be a teacher. I was like, okay.
Cool.
And he goes, I saw a kid in that class that reminded me of me. And he's like, you know, he was scared. He wouldn't, you know, participate. And he goes, I got down right next to him and I told him his idea was good. And we put together a little pitch. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And with what we've seen at the high school is this type of program is really good for our students that might struggle with ADD or ADHD, just because it's a very hands-on experience. Right. And he was like, you know, I saw myself in that kid and I was always in trouble. And he's like, it's because I didn't know how to take, you know, all this energy I have and make it functional in a school setting. And then I had the chance to meet with that teacher the next week in another meeting, because we have a bazillion meetings all the time in education. We meet to just meet sometimes.
You're not alone.
Well, she brought it up and I hadn't talked to her about it. And she said that particular student had been more engaged in class ever since my student had come in. And she said, can we get him in more often? And I was like, none of that had to do with social studies. None of it had to do with teaching entrepreneurship. It was connecting a kid to someone who was going to help them see themselves and see themselves as someone who was good and smart. And that made a huge difference for my senior, made a huge difference for that student, made a huge difference for this teacher in the classroom. I mean, just, you never know the ripple effects of just saying yes to these types of programs that don't fit into the box of traditional education.
Yeah.
So I'm going to piggyback on that really quickly. I wish Scott Mann was here from Venture Lab to tell this story, but he told Doug Hunt and me this morning this story. Because Doug asked, what's been your favorite story of being a Spark mentor? And he asked that of Lindley, and he asked that of Scott. And Scott quickly went to a student that he had a few years back in California. And he was a boy that it was really quiet, didn't emote much, but he said he wanted to cure cancer. That's what he wanted to do. That was what they were going to work on during the Spark mentoring. And he said he said, I never know if I was connecting with this kid, but I got through. He said, in the last meeting after 4 months, he said, and I wish I could remember the young man's name. It'll come to me in a minute. But anyway, he looked at him, he goes, Mr. Mann, I just want to tell you, thank you, Scott. Like, he goes, nobody has ever just listened to my ideas and took them seriously. And that just floored him. Well, then they found out that UCal Irvine had one of the premier cancer research summer intern type programs for high school kids. And they were able to get this young man eventually into this internship at Cal Irvine. This kid is now a freshman at Brown University this fall. And it's all because an adult listened. And that's exactly right, Kara. And that's a near peer. I mean, that's but to that third grader, that high schooler is like, I talk about that as a junior hire. I had a kid come down when I was at Pacific. I had the stud, basketball, baseball, trumpet, the guy I idolized, who was in it, came and spent time with me as a 7th grader, kind of as a big brother. And he was a huge influence in my life. So that's that kind of thing. That's what this is about in building those relationships.
Finding a way to say yes. That
Yes.
was key for me out of what you guys have been saying. Finding a way to say yes. Yes, you can.
And,
and
Kim,
go ahead, Jackie.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Mark. You're fine.
I was just going to say, but part of that is giving kids opportunities. Sometimes it's what Kara said. These are interactive opportunities for students, and often, and as Aaron put in the chat, that often students with ADHD, some neurodivergent issues, this is a great way for them to be given a chance and to feel like they can thrive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Annette is not here is kind of interesting. We're talking about this, because that's kind of her deal, right? She's going to really love seeing this video whenever it's all over, because we've talked about it. And so with that, I think it's the opportunities we provide. As a state network, we do a statewide pitch challenge. Steve was helpful in getting that started, 4 years ago. We had our 4th one this year. And it's so awesome. But the goal is to make sure that the local programs provide those opportunities for kids so they can practice and all of that. It's fun to watch the kids win at the state and the national level. But Kara, would you please talk about the 2 students that won our grand prize and were national winners this year real quick, because they pitched last year.
They did. So it's really exciting. One of the students in that group started out in our after school space his 4th grade year. And our chamber has been fortunate to receive grants from Missouri After School Network to help sponsor these pitches. And the first year they did not do well. They did not win. But they were there and they pitched. That student came back with a partner last year and pitched at our all district pitch competition at the end of the year, sponsored by our chamber again. They won. And then they went on to submit a video to participate in the summer pitch. And we found out, was it Wednesday night? All these nights are running together. But we found out, I guess it was Wednesday night, that they won the grand prize at the state level and then the national. I wish everyone could have seen their faces and the cameras like just moving around in all the different directions. And I mean, I think they were just shaking their computers. I mean, you could just see the joy and feel the joy through a Zoom. And that's hard, especially if you've ever had to teach through a Zoom. It was true joy. And to see, for me, it was that kid has grown so much. And he even approached me last year at the end of our pitch, and he was like, this is my thing. Thrive is my thing. And I was like, it is, buddy. It is totally your thing. And he was so proud that they didn't win before, but Mark, you got to hear from my our after school leader, and she talked about how much it's given her new life and joy. She's actually one of our gifted educators, and she was so excited to be able to take some of these things that they can do in that gifted time with all students. She was like, and not just with her little section of kids, but now she gets to work with all students. And she was like, this has just become such a joyful part of her week to be able to do this with our kids. But yes, no, we won. National winners. And I am so excited. And I hope you guys all do more of those pitches. It just makes us have to work even harder to try to win your money. But it's really something special to see kids win. And again, it's the joy. You could even see the parents' joy behind them. This wasn't so as a DECA advisor. DECA is it's a marketing club for high school kids nationwide, worldwide. I've always said what I love about DECA is it's a curricular club, and kids can be recognized for using their brain, not just their athletic ability. And that's something that happens in this program too, is they are being recognized for what they're doing at that academic level. And those parents were beaming just as if they'd won the state football championship right behind them. And I know their Facebook pages were probably blowing up with, posts about how they won. So you're really hitting more than just a student with these opportunities.
So I'm just smiling. I am so excited about this conversation and excited for it to continue at the CEC conference. We have reached the point in our webinar that I would like to just have all of you just give a couple minutes each on what your takeaway from the conversation today is, what you hope the takeaway for people who come to your presentation at CEC conference. And so I'm going to start with Sarah. If you want to just tell us what you're taking away from this conversation.
Sure. I agree. Jackie, this has been a great conversation. Our goal at New Bloomfield and most public educators and private educators too, our goal is to give kids opportunities and to see them flourish in those. And so, hearing things that other people are doing is very, very important to our work as well. I think some of the things that I would like people to take out is I'm going to go through 10 things that we work in education to build those qualities in our students. And I think that they can easily be obtained also in the workforce. And so I want to give some tricks and different things from the education world that I think people could use, but also that there are ways to improve your workforce as well. And that partnership definitely needs to be there. So I want everybody to know to reach out to your public schools, your private schools that have high schools, because we are all about giving our kids opportunities. And I think the sky's the limit when that comes to that. We just have to put our heads together and think, an innovative way. As we all know, kids need that innovation and that movement to be successful. And we just have to help foster that. So that's my goal.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll go to Kara and Brian. What are your takeaways from the conversation today?
Well, that's funny because I was texting Brian and I said, hey, we need to start that bank program. He said, absolutely. So takeaway, watch out, Webster Banks, here we come. That's what I love about these type of things. is hearing something good and being like, let's do that for our kids. How can we make this work where we are? How do we need to, what we need to do to change so we can have it fit for us? I love that. My brain is always going 1,000 miles an hour. So, and I also love that I'm able to say, oh, I can connect Kim with Danny at Regions in Webster. Like, I love that this type of event and the event that we're going to be hosting is an opportunity for that. It's making those connections. So that's really kind of what we're hoping to do with our session when we're at the event in Fulton, is to say this is what we're doing, but how can we help you in your area do something like it? Brian is going to be the go-to guy for how do we work around with curriculum and all those grade levels and the state requirements, because he is great with that. I'm the, okay, how can we look at all the rules and decide, is it law, is it policy, is it practice, or is it, can we work around things and figure out how we can make it work? Jason Adams is going to kind of zoom in as an assistant superintendent and talk about from the upper level, what do we need to do in a school district to help our community and to help you guys get connected to our kids? So we really want this to be kind of a workshopping session. What are your needs? How can we connect you to our resources and to the people who've helped us so that you can go off and do what you need for your community, whether it's in Kansas City or in Kirksville, like wherever it is, what do you need and how can we take what we've learned and help you get to what's good for your community and your students? Brian, does that sound good?
Yeah, and I think that spirit of collaboration, like not doing everything in silos, we're all doing some similar stuff, and we don't need to be operating in these silos of and so especially those smaller school districts, you're not alone. We're I'm the president of the Missouri Council for the Social Studies, and that's one of our initiatives is to get into those schools to provide those supports, because we're not alone in this journey. So let's travel together.
Oh, thank you. So Mark and Aaron, what are your takeaways? What are your thoughts?
I'll let Aaron go first.
I'm actually typing in the chat right now, answering a question that was asked in there. As far as this conversation goes, hopefully we've kind of all driven home the point of how important it is to connect with our youth and to teach them these skills and mindsets. And so if you're out there and you're wondering still, how do I do this? Our session is going to be kind of a broad overview of lots of different things that are possible that you can become connected with. And some of them are supported by us and our work, and some of them might spark an idea for you. And you say, you know what, I can take that and I can do that in my community. I don't need anybody else's help. I can run with that idea. So I think that's kind of the takeaway for me.
And for me, it has reinforced what I believe, and that is grassroots, local connections and collaboration transform communities and empower students and families. And we can do that. And it only takes, it takes a couple of positive things. We always talk about one negative statement. It only takes one negative statement to wipe out however many positive statements. But it doesn't take much positive to really to get some momentum, people to start to believe again that their community can thrive, even if it hasn't. And then also giving those kids, as Aaron said, give those students, give those kiddos hope, give them a chance to know that they matter. And then what that does is that transforms a family and transforms a community.
Yeah. To piggyback on that, I mean, there's research out there that shows that if kids have a positive experience in their community, they are more likely to come back. They may leave and go to college, they may go do some other stuff, but they will more than likely eventually come back home.
Look at Sarah Wisdom, Dr. Wisdom. There you go.
Wonderful.
Awesome, Dr. Sarah Wisdom.
Oh, Kim, what is your takeaway?
Yeah, so my takeaway from this conversation is encouragement. It is that we're not alone. no effort is wasted. And no matter who you are or what resources you have at your hands, you can do something. And it's important to just do something, whatever it is, make your difference in the way that you can. So that's encouraging.
Thank you.
Thank you all for what you do.
So that's my cue to wrap up.
Okay.
So I have put a link in the chat for the conference registration. If you have not registered yet, and you would like to hear more from the panelists and from 5 other tracks that we have outside of youth entrepreneurship, please register for the conference. Plan to join us in Fulton, September 17th through the 19th. I appreciate you panelists for joining me today. Everyone on the call that has taken time out of your Friday. Go have a great weekend. Go have a long weekend and enjoy yourself. So thank you all.
See you all in Fulton soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.